Real alcoholic. Actually, taking my 60-day trip. This is the first time that I've actually told my story at an AA meeting, so bear with me a little bit. So I was born on the East Coast in New York, in 47, so it was the 70s. New York was not a great place in the 70s, drug-ridden and pretty awful. My dad was finishing his residency. He was a neonatologist and finishing off his PhD. And my mom was sick of going to the parks and pushing a carriage and having to dodge the junkies and not being able to play on the swing sets because there's needles sticking out of the ground. And there's just, New York at that time was just the pit. So my dad was doing his PhD in genetics. And so the Cayman Islands came up as a place that had a rare genetic disorder. And so it sounded good to them, trade in New York and its pollution for the beaches and coconuts of the Caribbean. So we went down there, and that's where I had my first memories. More so than I remember the beaches a little bit, and remember, I remember it. But what I remember most is feeling safe. I just remember a lot of love and feeling happy and that connected. There was a community down there. And we sort of jumped into it, and I feel a lot of love. And then we moved from there up to Boston, just when I started school. And I remember being the same. It was a small community inside Boston. It was predominantly Irish and Jewish, and it's a good school. I was happy. And then I found out, actually, so it was right before my birthday, and we went to pick up out a golden retriever for my birthday present. And it was a week before. The night before my birthday, my mom comes in and wakes me up and tells me that I'm not going to be able to get my dog. And so, as a 6-year-old or 5 turning 6, that's pretty devastating. But at the same time, she told me, she was big on ripping off the Band-Aids, that they were getting a divorce. So birthdays are really fond of birthdays. So I found out that was happening, and so we went from living in going to a private school and living in a nice house to an apartment in Boston, and me going to a school where on I think it was the 3rd or 4th day that when I transferred over there, a student getting in a fight, this is still 2nd, 3rd grade, I think. A student getting in a fight with the teacher and punching them in the face, knocking the woman down. And me, I'd never seen anything like that, and so I was scared shitless. And I think that's where, excuse my language, I think that's where I started to get this feeling of that I didn't belong and that the world around me was scary, and I didn't know how to react to it. I didn't know how to deal with it, and that it was out to get me. And so jumping forward a couple of years, it was pretty normal Boston, sort of, take the train to school, was inner city, East Coast. And then not like Matt Damon and Good Will Hunting, Boston, but more like the real thing where it's a little grimy, a little dirty, but everybody was, watched out for each other. It was a fairly good community. And so then it was about when I was 11, was the first time I drank. My mom didn't really drink. She was actually in Al-Anon. My dad wasn't a drinker either, but my mom always needed to belong to something and be the victim. So I went to Alateen, or whatever it was at that point, and she went to Al-Anon. And so we didn't really have alcohol around the house, but when she'd have parties, she would get a bottle of wine or something along those lines. And so this one day I came home from school. I was a latchkey kid, and I don't know where it came from, but I decided to drink some of the wine, and I drank about half the bottle. And I remember lying on my bed in my room, and the sun was coming through the windows, and I felt completely at peace. I wasn't scared. I didn't worry about the fights at school or whether I was going to get good grades or I was doing enough, or that I was helping out enough at the house, or that I had to take care of my brother and sister when my mom was working. I didn't have any of those worries, or that my dad didn't want to be around me or didn't love me. None of those things mattered. I was calm and I was fine. And so the next day I tried to, this is the alcoholic in me. I right at that age, I tried the next day again, get drunk, and there wasn't enough that was left over. And so I didn't get that feeling. And I got caught for it. And that was the beginning of my lying about alcohol, was at 11 years old. Because my mom asked me if I had drank it. And instead of just saying yes, I did, and admitting that I had done it alone. For some reason, even then I knew that drinking by myself there's something weird about that. And so I said, oh yeah, I drank with one of my buddies, and that we had drank it. It wasn't just me drinking it by myself and then sitting in my room. It was like me and a friend had done it. And I think he got in trouble for it too. I remember he was pissed. He was the fucking worst rat ever. Wow. Yeah, but so yeah, and that was sort of the last time for a long time that I drank. But it wasn't just that happened that had the repercussions from it. About a year later, in the summer, when I was 12 going to be going 13 in September. We were down the Cape, to go down the Cape during summer. And on the way back, I don't know, something happened inside a restaurant. I still don't really remember. I don't remember it being a big deal, but it turned into this big thing. And on the car ride back, I was jumping out of the car, and it was bad. It was just all bad. And we got back, and the next day I was supposed to go to school. It was supposed to be the start of the school year. And my mom said, no, you're going to come with me. And she took me to this place. And I guess she had talked to a friend of hers that had an older son who was like 17 or 18, who was a drug addict. And they had taken him to this hardcore place called Straight. And it was one of those ones that it was in the 80s where it was just like abusive, and it got shut down by the government later on. But so I'm 12 years old. I'm wearing like little like shorts, a little t-shirt, like combed over hair, like, not knowing anything about drugs. And I get brought into this place where it's like bikers, like hardcore bikers and gang guys. And it was like intense. And the first question they would ask you to sort of see whether or not you were lying, they would ask you if you had ever masturbated. And me being 12 years old, I didn't know what the word meant. I had no idea what the word meant. And so I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So they're like, oh yeah, he's lying. He's saying he's only drank that one time. He's been boozing it up every day. This guy, you can't trust anything he says. So I went to rehab because of masturbation. And so, yeah. So I was there for 7 months, and like the 12-year-old, and we're talking where the being held down, restrained, water poured on your face while you're on the ground, punches, fights in the bathroom, getting thrown out, not being fed for days, just the whole sort of spectrum of the things that were like part of drug clinics in the 80s. So I get out, and really all that taught me about drugs. It taught me about how to fight. And it taught me that I didn't matter what was going on in my life, everything would be taken away from me at the moment's drop of the hat by someone else in my life. So I didn't have any control, so I might as well just fucking enjoy myself. And I tried to for the next 36 years. So I had a lot of fun. I drank a lot with my buddies. My community was Irish then, and you go to wakes and there was Jameson. You go to weddings and there was Jameson. You went over on Sunday dinner afterwards, there was Jameson. And so I just would drink. I didn't really do anything else. I smoked like once and didn't really like it. I smoked pot once and didn't really like it. But like that was, right about like 14, 15, was drinking. After high school, I went to a boarding school, got kicked out of a boarding school finished up at one of those sort of like, they said, go home send in your your final paper, and we'll say you graduated. It's one of those sort of mutual. You don't come back, we'll give you a diploma. I drank the headmaster's wine, and I was running like something out of one of the dorm rooms. It was bad. It was just all bad. Cops involved, and just it was ugly. But so yeah, so after that, I decided I did something called the AmeriCorps program, which was working in inner city. And after a year of doing that, I had saved up enough money, and they gave sort of a bonus at the end of it. And I went traveling for a couple of years through Europe, Asia, South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, across the US and Canada. And I drank the whole way. And also did a little bit of this and a little bit of that too. And a buddy of mine, I would cook in places to sort of keep going. But then a buddy of mine also, he got me involved in dealing, and that like helped me have enough money to be able to travel and continue that on for about almost about 2 years. And then I got back into the States, and this was like before 9/11. So like I literally would go through with drugs just wrapped around me and just walk onto a plane, and like never got caught. I also wasn't dumb enough to go to Thailand and places like that. But anyways, but so when I got back, I was sort of sick of a lot of things that were going on, and came back and decided. My parents were like, go to school, just go to college. As long as you have a college diploma, we did fine as a parent. So there's a lot of pressure on me to, like, no matter how much you fuck you up, you have a college degree, like, you're okay. And so I came back and went to UMass Amherst, and was out there for 4 years, and I drank and did a lot of drugs and sold drugs, and that was my life. And it wasn't a problem until I was done, or until my senior years, when it started really becoming a problem. When I started doing things like sleeping with friends' girlfriends, and doing things like not going to any classes that were before 2 p.m, and stealing money from, like, cashing out accounts that I shouldn't have cashed out, and just really just doing all the things that are gonna ruin your life. I decided to really squeeze them into 1 year. And so I got through it, though. You know, I was smart enough to do the bare minimum in life, and that's another trend. Being an alcoholic and doing the bare minimum to get by has been a trend in my life up till now, hopefully up till now. So after that, I pretty much stopped drinking and started smoking pot. I figured, like, alcohol is a problem, but pot's not going to be a problem. So then I became a pothead. And for my 20s, smoked a lot of pot, and worked at a 9-to-5 job, and sort of just did that. Then I met the woman of my dreams, and she was amazing. She was a good Southern girl. She was beautiful. She was intelligent. She was funny. She was driven. So that meant she had a good job, and we had the things that went along with a good job. And so she didn't really care anything about what I was making. She just wanted me to be happy. And we got married, and we came out to California, and I did the bare minimum in the marriage. You know, I didn't do the things that she needed to be happy. I did the things that made me happy. I didn't give her, I was either at work or I was drinking. That was it, you know, and I drove her away, and eventually she got smart, and I was gone into a rehab, one of my first rehabs, and got out, and she was like, listen, I can't do this anymore. Like, you got to stop drinking. And then I didn't stop drinking. She was like, it was 4 years ago, Valentine's Day. And she said, listen, I don't even care about you drinking. I'm just sick of you passing out. This is Valentine's Day tomorrow. Just don't pass out. I want to do something with you tomorrow night. That's all she asked. I could have drank anything, just don't pass out. I passed out. I couldn't even stay awake on Valentine's Day. And I knew what I was doing. But I didn't give a fuck, because I didn't care about anybody but myself. That's the other trend. So I'm an alcoholic. who's lazy and doesn't care about anybody except for myself. And so she said, we need to get separated, and we got separated. And I went to another drug rehab. One of those ones where they said, like, you're an alcoholic, but you can probably drink again down the road if you just, you have these emotional things you need to work on. And once you get those out of the way, it'll probably be okay for you to have, a couple of glasses of wine with dinner, or, champagne on New Year's. It wasn't okay because I'm an alcoholic, like a true blue, 100%. I'll drink anything alcoholic. And so I got done with the rehab and went to a sober living. And after 2 weeks, I wanted to drink. And so I left the sober living, jumped in a car, and drank my way from northern Arizona to Dallas, Texas. And that was another trend that I had, was of drinking and driving. I loved to drink while I drove. And so a road trip and booze was like perfect for me. I didn't care if I was going to kill anybody, because like I told you, I didn't give a fuck about anybody else. I didn't care if I could have killed some family. I could have killed you, could have killed your daughter. It didn't even matter. I didn't care. I just wanted to drink and be able to drive. And so I got back to Dallas, and she was done. She wouldn't even talk to me. And I decided that I was going to do a geographical change, because she was the problem. I just needed people out of my way so I could drink. And so I just started going around to hotels. And that started 4 years of going to hotels, or going to rehabs, or shacking up with a woman who I met in a rehab. And I did that for the last 4 years, and lost everything. I lost multiple homes. I lost cars, even through accidents. Like, if anybody tells you there's not such a thing as white privilege, let me tell you, there's definitely something called white privilege in Texas. Because I drove into the back of a taxi and then into a light stand, shit face, and the cop was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He's like, "Can you get home?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can get home." He's like, "All right, cool." Nothing, not a ticket, nothing. Just jumped into my car with the front like completely ripped off, and just drove down the street. And so, yeah, so multiple cars, houses, wives, friends, stole from my brother. My brother was nice enough to be like, as I started to get down to running out of, savings and running out of everything that I had, he was like, stay at one of my places. My brother's very successful. And he was, he was like, I got a house, stay there. Just take your time. Don't worry about it. I got you covered. I'll even make sure that somebody comes by and stocks the fridge every week. So all you have to do is just stay sober and try to go to some meetings. Instead, I broke into his liquor cabinet. He had a large liquor cabinet. It was a room, and I drank the wine and all the booze, and proceeded for a month just to figure out. The thing that's so messed up about that is like that he didn't care about the cost of the wine, and there was some nice wine in there. This was all stuff that he and his wife, as they had traveled the world, had collected. It was like these things that they had picked up at special places for them. It's like the first place that they went for a date. It was a winery in South Africa, and so they picked that up. Then it's place in the Maldives, they picked up the spotlight. It was things that were really important to them, and I didn't care. I drank it, because I wanted. That minute, I was too lazy to go to a liquor store, I was too drunk to make a phone call, so I just go in there and drink. And at the end of that month, I hated myself, and I decided like I didn't want to kill myself in my brother's place, because that would bring down the value of the house. So I was thoughtful in that way. I take everything else, but I didn't, real estate wise, I was considering. So what I decided to do instead was, my mom was renting a place. So what I decided to do was hang myself in her basement. That was since that was somebody else's real estate. So my mom was going to move out eventually. So didn't really matter. It wasn't going to affect anybody in my families. So I went and drank a ton and tried to hang myself, and I couldn't do it. I'd stand on the chair and I'd sort of rock it back and forth, hoping that like it would get tight enough that like I would slip and it would happen. I couldn't do it. So it's like, all right, what I can do is I can go and get a lot of sleeping pills. I had like some OxyContin and just a bunch of things, and collected them all and proceeded to start taking those. And I was like, long as I have the noose around my head and I'm standing on this, I'm gonna fall off and pass out. And I'll hang myself. You know, I'm too much of a pussy to actually take the step off. I need somebody to do it for me. And I guess this was probably the, like, you know, what you say is a God shot. Thank you. It didn't happen. I stood up there and I didn't pass out. I started vomiting. And so then, like, I had vomit on myself and I needed to pee. So I got the noose off and I got down and then spent the next like 3 days lying on the ground in my mom's basement because I couldn't like really walk or, you know, do anything. And I decided maybe it was time to take it serious. You know, maybe I needed to change the way I was living my life and the things that I was doing to myself and to everybody else in my life. And so I started, I came down here and I started calling places. I called here and thank you. 5 minutes? Oh, Jesus, I thought it was like a minute left. Okay, 5 minutes. All right. So I started calling places. I started calling a few places, and I got in touch with Liz. And Liz was like, you know, I don't have any place right now, but give a call back each day, and we'll get in touch with it. She said, like, Monday, give a call. And that Monday, I didn't call her. I decided I needed to do a little bit more experimentation and see if I really was an alcoholic. And I started drinking, and other stupid things happened. And then eventually, I was back into a hospital. And then when I got out of the hospital, called Liz, and she was like, "We can get you in. Just don't drink tonight. Come in tomorrow morning, and we'll get you in. All you have to do is just show up, don't drink." I had detox, so I didn't have any alcohol in my system right then. She's like, "Don't drink." So I drank. And I showed up the next day, and you know, it only been, you know, 5 hours of drinking or so, and like it wasn't that much, but I still, it affects you, you know, like when you detox, then you have that's, even if it's just not a lot, it throws you off. And I came in and I was shaky and I was depressed, and you know, Nancy was the angel that she always is, and you know, said, "It's gonna be okay. Sit down. Let me get you something to eat. Here's some water. Have a cigarette." And I pissed dirty, and this was like, "I'm pissed." You know, she was upset, greatly so. And she said, "But we're going to give you a chance. Go to the doctor, and if they say that you can physically do this, then we're going to let you in, even though they shouldn't. They shouldn't have. I didn't deserve it. They had asked me to be sober for, it was like 18 hours. Just be sober for 18 hours, and I didn't do that. But Liz has a hard exterior, but I think that she probably has a softer heart than she wants to admit. Because she said, "Okay, you know, if the doctor will let you, then we'll send you over to 19th Street." And so I came back to the doctor, said, "Yeah, I think he saw the desperation eyes. He's like, yeah, go ahead, get back there, get into a rehab. They're good. I've worked with them before, and they're good. Yeah, they're good people. So get in there." And so I came back, and I've been now for the last 64 days, 65 days. Here for exam. And I had all the tools before. I had gone to enough places. This is my sixth place, not counting like the detox places that was sprinkled in between. So I had been to enough places to know what I needed to do each time that I wanted to drink. But what I hadn't done is in rehab, I'd get into habits, patterns, you know, get up early, read the big book, do the prayers, talk to people in recovery, call my sponsor, eat healthy, or, I mean, I eat a lot of sweets, but at least eat, you know, do 3 meals a day. And then I'd get out of here, and I wouldn't call my sponsor. I wouldn't go to AA meetings. I'd work, and I'd get money coming in, and I'd start feeling like I could probably like, I know I'm an alcoholic, but I could probably drink on a Friday night, then have all weekend to sober up. So I'll be fine on Monday morning. And even if I'm not, like, I know that I can take like a GABA and a Xanax and I'll be okay at work. And so that's what I would do. And then that Friday night would turn into the weekends. Then it would turn to every night when I get home. Then I was shaking in the morning every day. And so I was taking medication to make it so I could go into work. And then I was drinking in the evenings, and, you know, the same thing that happens to most alcoholics. But this time what I realized was I can't do 30 days. I can't even do 60 days. I need 90 days because I need to get in these habits and I need to take them with me when I leave here. Because I can't even take a morning off. Like every morning I have to wake up, I have to read from the big book, I have to pray, I have to do a meditation, and I need to write in my journal. And then I can start like the day. Then I can be somewhat sane. But it was until Fred Brown when I started meeting people that I connected to, that I felt like, all right, these people are real alcoholics too. And I don't know where I was going with that, but
What about your dog?
but yeah, so I have a French bulldog that is the love of my life. He's really the only thing. I've burned down everything else. I don't have, my family doesn't want to talk to me really. I've sort of lost everything, but I got this dog. And so what I'm doing is, I didn't think I was going to do sober living because I don't have a place to keep him. But what I've sort of been talking with my sponsor about who's an awesome guy, is like, maybe I can watch him at least for a month. So you can do a month of sober living. And, I'm going to still try to see if I can find another option, because this time I'm going to try to take every opportunity I have. Instead of worrying about trying to get out as quickly as I can or finish something as quickly as I can, I'm just going to go with the process. And everything that I can do to stay a little bit longer in an environment that's about recovery, I'm going to try to stay in that moment and in that place. Because I need to be sober, because I can't do this anymore. I'm 47 and I'm hating everything about life. And when I'm drinking, when I'm sober, I don't mind it. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Thank you.